I'm Becky Brouwer, and I'm a Sendy Mom. You're listening to the Sendy Mom Podcast. Welcome back to the Sendy Mom Podcast bonus episode. I had such a great conversation with my mother-in-law, Ans Brouwer. She recommended a book about 3 Dutch resistance fighters. I'm not sure exactly which book that is because there's several of them. So I'm going to give you a few different ones that you can choose from if you go to my website, and also in the show notes, I'll have them there. I wanted to highlight these 3 remarkable women from the Dutch resistance during World War II. Jannetje, Johannes Schaft, Truus Overstegen, and Freddie Overstegen. These courageous young women risked their lives to fight against the Nazi regime, demonstrating extraordinary bravery and a steadfast commitment to their values. Their story isn't just about wartime resistance, it's about understanding the power of standing up for what is right, even when it's difficult. Through their lives, we'll explore how to recognize oppression and fight it without becoming oppressors ourselves. By the end, I hope to inspire you to find what you value most and live boldly in alignment with your beliefs. So during World War II, Netherlands fell under Nazi occupation. As oppression spread, brave individuals and some groups organized resistance efforts to disrupt Nazi operations, hide persecuted individuals like the Jewish community, and fight for freedom. Among those were Johannes Schaft, who was nicknamed Hannie, and sisters Truus and Freddie Overstegen. Hannie and Truus and Freddie were 18, 16, and 14 years old when they were recruited into the resistance. They began by distributing anti-Nazi propaganda and helping Jewish families escape, but their roles escalated to acts of sabotage and even assassinations of Nazi officials. Despite their youth, they were unwavering in their fight against injustice. Freddie later reflected, "We did not feel like heroes. We felt it was our duty to do everything in our power to stop the oppression." One of Hannie's most memorable quotes reminds us of the importance of integrity in the face of fear. She said, "I'd rather die standing than live on my knees." Her words resonate as a call to hold fast to our values no matter the cost. Truus, known for her eloquence, described their motivation. She said it was about fighting for humanity and dignity. We couldn't look the other way. Truus and Freddie were recruited at age 16 and 14. When their recruiter pulled a gun out and told them he was from the Gestapo or German police, and he flashed a badge at them and telling them that he would kill them if they didn't reveal the address of the Socialist Party leader to them, they both jumped on him and wrangled the gun from him. This was their first test to see if they would have the mettle to see through their convictions. Hannie paid the ultimate price for her bravery as she was captured and executed by the Nazis in 1945, just weeks before the war ended. It's been reported that the first shot really only injured her and didn't kill her. She reportedly turned to the executioner and said, "Idiot, I shoot better." Truus and Freddie lived long lives, spending their later years sharing their stories to ensure the resistance lessons were not forgotten. Their testimonies inspire us to carry forward the legacy of courage and commitment to justice. The Dutch resistance took many forms, often relying on ingenuity and nonviolent acts of defiance. Here are a few examples. So there was a bicycle bell protest in which the youth in a Dutch town were disrupting a Nazi rally by incessantly ringing their bicycle bells. And when a German leader attempted to speak, they cut the microphone wire, creating chaos and rendering him unheard. A lot of resistance fighters did underground printing, so they secretly printed and distributed newspapers to counter Nazi propaganda and keep hope alive. Also, there were ordinary families who risked their lives to shelter Jewish people and other people persecuted by the Nazis. And we know about these from the Diary of Anne Frank and The Hiding Place from Corrie ten Boom that I spoke about in Kim Jonas's episode. She was my Sendy spotlight for that episode. The other thing they did, they sabotaged the infrastructure. So resistance fighters damaged train tracks, disrupted communication lines, destroyed supply depots. so that all that they could hinder Nazi operations. The other thing that I thought was really interesting is that they would code messages in music. So the BBC would turn on a certain piece of music that was to alert the Polish resistance fighters, for example, of different bridges they needed to blow up and things like that. And so I thought that was really interesting and a creative way to pass instructions on to people. And I'll have in the show notes some information about that as well. So these acts of defiance show that resistance isn't always loud or violent. Sometimes it's the quiet determination to do what's right that makes the greatest impact. So how do you know what is right? Where have you gotten your value system? We actually have a really perfect system for delivering and receiving values, and it's called families. Parents teach their children, who then teach their children. Unfortunately, not all parents teach children proper values. As we saw in episode number 9 with Faith Robles, there are some children growing up in homes that value status, money, and possessions more than relationships and kindness. They use people in order to gain the things they value. They even treat these people as possessions. It's really eye-opening to understand that not everyone has the same values, and worse, that some people are willing to hurt others in order to selfishly obtain what they value. Find out what your values are. So years ago, I sat down with my husband and we discussed what was important to our family. We have refined that list over the years, and we developed a set of family mottos for that list. I think I mentioned that in my episode about Maria Montessori, which is bonus episode number 10. The mottos hang throughout our house on wooden boards that my brother-in-law made for us years ago and that I put lettering on. I'll provide a link with our family mottos on the Sendy Mom website for any of our subscribers, along with a list of values you might consider for your own family. We choose one of our family mottos every night to recite. When our children were young, we spent one evening a week talking about what was important to our family. At one point, we had the kids choose a motto to explain and discuss in our weekly family home evening. I don't know if they remember those lessons, but they definitely remember the mottos, and I think they mean something to them. The Dutch resistance teaches us that you can uphold your values and have integrity in the worst circumstances. There are different ways to display bravery. It's also sometimes unclear when violence is necessary to defend what you value. The point is that we can all use our unique gifts and talents to make a difference in the world and to promote good. Truth and Freddie both emphasize that fighting oppression begins with small, deliberate acts of defiance against injustice. So I'd like to give you 5 ways that you can defend what you believe and stand up for those who don't have a voice. Maybe try to choose one of them to work on today and be a more Sendy mom by standing up for what you believe. So first, you need to identify your core values. What principles really matter most to you? Some examples could be kindness, fairness, freedom, honesty, loyalty, faith. This takes some time and you might have a lengthy list, but you can often group a lot of things together. Number 2, stand up in everyday situations. Speak up when you see bullying or discrimination. Advocate for others. Let your conscience be your guide. This is not about looking for tiny offenses and calling people out on them. This is looking at motives that are nefarious and not being afraid to stand up for what you believe in. Honestly, I'm still struggling with this. I'm a bit of a people pleaser. Most of us don't really like confrontation. I really hope if I saw someone doing something to harm someone else, I would speak up. I actually remember a time I was with my family in Holland, and there are so many bikes in Holland. There was this parking area for bikes that we were passing, and I saw this man pull out a huge set of wire cutters and start cutting a bike lock to steal it. I could not believe what I was seeing. I started telling my family and pointing at him. I yelled at him to stop. He did stop and he walked away. I didn't do anything after that. Maybe I should have gone to talk to the police. I'm sure he was back 5 minutes later to finish the job. So how do we stop crime? I suppose reporting is really what we can do, but there's something deeper. Somehow these people were not taught, or they were forced into situations where their values were altered in a way so they didn't view what they were doing as wrong. Children in particular look to adults as examples of how to interact with others. Show your children how what they say might affect someone else. This goes for old and young children. Oftentimes, they just don't understand. Don't pass judgment on your children and ask them questions like, what made you think that way? And just be curious. You can learn a lot by asking non-threatening questions, and then ask follow-up clarifying questions like, thanks for telling me that. Are you saying that whatever? Don't be afraid to share your views without defending yourself or what you believe. Yeah, I was just thinking about how she might have felt. What do you think? This is how we develop empathy. Empathy is not feeling what other people feel, as most people mistakenly think. Wallowing with others in their grief does not help anyone. Empathy is really more about trying to understand how a person feels and accepting those feelings without passing judgment. Have you ever known anyone that can do that? It is the best feeling. You totally know you're safe with that person. So third, use your own unique skills to do good. Truus Oversteken became an artist and a sculptor. She spent most of her life depicting healing from the war. Her famous sculpture, Stone of a Million Tears in Rotterdam, is moving as a waterfall continuously falls over a rough cut and broken stone, symbolizing the broken lives of people who survived the war. She also spoke during her life internationally about resisting evil throughout her life. Her sister Freddie became a mother. She taught her children to live good and kind lives and to spread good in the world. Both are beautiful examples of ways you can use your unique skills to do good. So fourth, practice being consistent. Cognitive dissonance is when what you believe is not matched by your actions. Eventually, you're going to feel really out of balance, and you're either going to change your belief to match your actions, or you'll change your actions to match your beliefs. So be sure to be really clear on what you value and follow through with actions that are consistent with what you believe. If you recognize a little bit of cognitive dissonance, try to learn what it is you are doing that you can do to do better and to better live what you believe. But honestly, don't be too hard on yourself. Everybody's got a little bit of self-hypocrisy. And that reminds me of a friend of mine who she once said to me, it's okay. Everyone has their own pet hypocrisies. So I love that idea of a pet hypocrisy, but we are trying to do better, and don't condemn yourself because of it. Okay, so fifth, build your community. Remember the story of the coffee bean from episode number 13 with Ans? Damon West tells the story of being in prison and having a hardened prisoner explain that the prison is like a pot of boiling water. It can make you soft like a carrot, hard like an egg, or it can change the whole pot because you are a coffee bean. You have the power to change your environment. And in doing so, you attract others to your community who want to change their environment for good. As a Sendy community, we can bravely change what is around us by standing together to fight oppression, abuse, and to defend those who are not able to defend themselves. Hannie, Truus, and Freddie remind us that bravery begins in the heart. Whether we're standing against a tyrannical regime or quietly advocating for someone who was overlooked, we have the power to make a difference. Let their story inspire you to identify your values, recognize oppression, and respond with courage. As Hannie said, let's choose to live standing for what's right. Thanks for listening to the Sendy Mom Podcast. All of us Sendy Moms are here to inspire you to boldly take the next step in your journey as a Sendy Mom. Join our community, and I'll see you next time. In the words of Eleanor Roosevelt, do something every day that scares you. I'm Becky Brouwer.